like something we imagine, like we try to like go out of ourselves and imagine like objectively what would be the case, but it's all happening from the first person view, right? So the question is there even a third person view or a
Kind of
third
funny.
person perspective?
It's kind of funny. You can either solve uh, the quote unquote problem by being an eliminativist about the first person facts, or you can solve it by being an eliminativist about the third person facts. I think one is coherent, one isn't.
Yeah. What's up, King?
What's up? So I want to first really understand what this means, physicalism, especially as it pertains to like thoughts and ideas, emotions, and things of that nature. Are you saying that everything is physical and full stop? Or are you saying that there are things that are physical and there are things that are non-physical, but they derive from physical things?
I mean, personally, I'm rejecting the physical. I'm an idealist, but what a physicalist would say is that I mean, do you want like a definition of the physical according to a physicalist? Is that what you're asking? I'm not really sure what you're asking.
Dang it, he
Oh,
left. But yeah, he was asking what the physical is. Oh, he's back.
yeah. Okay, so reflect. A physicalist may say that. I mean, the classical definition of physicalism would be that it has to do with spatial extension.
Yep.
That's like Descartes' definition of the physical, but it has evolved from that, right? Now they would say maybe that whatever the best or final theory of physics posits, that would be like what's physical, and that is very like vague and
Yeah, I hate
and
that definition so much.
yeah, me too. Because I mean, what do you do with that? I mean, what do you say to something like that?
Okay, I'm
Um,
not sure what happened, but yeah. So I was asking basically that are you saying that, well, maybe not you, but is the understanding of physicalism, is it a position
mhm.
that everything is physical, even thoughts and ideas and so forth, or is it saying
Yeah,
that everything is
yeah.
physical or is derived from physical things?
Well, sadly, you have people who use both definitions, man. But for me, it's going to be the former. That's the traditional physicalist conception.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
what
so
all
then
physicalists would say, all of them, would be that the ontology of things are physical. Like what things are is physical. Okay. But then they would have like different way of like cashing out what it means to be conscious or have mental properties. Some of them would say, talk in terms of supervenience, which just means that the mental properties are supervenient on the subvenient physical base. So that only means that you could only have a change in the mental if you have a change in the subvenient physical base. So
so
you
then
couldn't have any mental change without first having a change in the subvenient physical base. But all of them would say the ontology is physical. That's what they all agree upon.
I'm not
I
really
want to call
sure
I want to call
how.
those takes like reform dualism, man.
So I'm
Yeah,
not.
yeah, I agree with you. I mean, some form of like physical, like non-reductive physicalism, do sound like do sound dualistic to me. Yeah,
Well, I'm not too sure how this is really valuable, right? To make a to claim some sort of a theory or an idea that that claims like there's a distinction, but then doesn't make a distinction, or there isn't a distinction, but there is a distinction. Like to say that thoughts, ideas, emotions, mental states are physical in the sense that they derive from physical things, it's just not really informative, right? It's like either it is a physical thing, like a mental state is a physical thing, an emotion is a physical thing, a theory or an idea is a physical thing, or it's not. I don't really see how that's all that valuable. What are they
Well, a
trying to?
physicalist is going to say that it is. right? That's the
And how?
point. They're saying
How is
it
it valid?
ultimately is, but they're going to vary in the ways that they talk about how it's the case that it ultimately is physical. Somebody's going to be a reductive, they're going to be non-reductive, they're going to invoke this term supervenience, right? But everything is physical, including your thoughts, under a physicalist thesis.
It seems to me like under atheism, if anyone here, I assume many of you are atheists, as atheists, because atheism is the most confused group of people who have all these different ideas and philosophical positions, well, that you're actually all idealists. Ultimately, you're committed to idealism because you really you can't refer to something physically because you can't actually demonstrate it physically. So you're committed to ideas, and idealism really says that those physical things are just really in your mind. So I'm not too sure how anyone who's not a theist comes to the conclusion that there is such a thing as physical things at all. Everything is just in your mind.
Wait, what are you saying? Are you saying theists believe in the physical or should believe in the physical, but not atheists?
Yeah, I'm saying that atheists are committed to idealism and theists don't have that constraint.
What?
Yeah.
No, I don't think that follows at all. I mean,
I think it
what's
does.
the argument for that?
Yeah, so basically, the only thing that you have in terms of knowledge is that which you know to be true. And that which you know to be true is based on what you experience. What you experience is not a physical thing. You experience things that's all mental. Everything that we experience is mental. So that's the only thing that we know to be the case. And because we have been in spaces where those mental things seemed like they were real things, like dreams or hallucinations, then that would indicate that your epistemic tool or your epistemic access to anything physical is actually you don't really have epistemic access because you have no way to disambiguate between those
So
two.
you're saying that atheists must reject the physical?
They have to. Yeah, they're committed to it. They're
Okay,
committed to it.
why doesn't the theist need to do that?
Because the theist has information from outside of their subjective referential frame, which is unique.
But that's not true.
How would you know that? How would you know that?
Yeah, that's not true.
Yeah, it's definitely true because of the fact that
How would you receive that information without your subjectivity?
yeah, well, you receive that information through revelation. Revelation is something that is
Yeah, but it's
doesn't
going to
have
be
to
your mind receiving that information if
But
that
it
were the
doesn't have
case.
yeah, but that revelation indicates that there
Like your
are
starting point is your mind.
no, but I'm saying that revelation it is telling you, it's indicating to you that there are physical things. Like God reveals to you, even non-inferentially, God reveals
look.
to you and inscribes upon your soul this information. Like when a baby is born, a baby knows how to
Yeah,
suckle.
but wait.
All
Wait,
that
you
information
only
is
know that
non-inferential.
subjectively. Like, you don't know that outside of yourself.
No, I'm saying that you do know that outside of yourself. You know
How would
that.
the person receiving that information know that there's an external world where, with God?
Because
How
that
does that give that person an advantage that another worldview can't provide?
because that
You know,
revelation
the revelation is not from an evil demon.
no, because that revelation tells you that it is right. You cannot be
Yeah, but
An evil
an
demon
evil
would say
demon
that,
would say
Pat.
that, right?
That's what
An
an
evil
evil
demon
demon-
no,
would
but
say, I'm good.
that's of no consequence. It's of no consequence whether it's in quote unquote evil. I mean, that's just throwing in a whole bunch of red herrings. This being, this entity that is revealing to you, is telling you that there
Like, ditch
are
the
real
circle
that
and
you-
accept that you make assumptions about an external world.
no, it's
begin
not an
with.
assumption. It's not an assumption. It's revealed.
But
No,
wait,
I'm saying
reflect.
that your worldview is useless.
Reflect. Let me ask you something. Are you a Mormon?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Okay,
I
so
can
do
give
you
an
believe
example.
that wait, just a second. So when what was his name? Adam Smith? Yeah, received this revelation from Mormon. I mean, was that really from God or was it from an evil demon?
An evil. Well, I think that's not a dichotomy. That's a false dichotomy. Yeah,
Okay, so who revealed it to him?
I don't believe that he was revealed to. I don't believe that. I myself.
Yeah,
me, I don't-
but he heard voices, or at least he claims he heard voices,
I think
and
he was
that
wrong.
voice claimed to be God. But you would say that it's not God, right? You would reject that. You would say no. God didn't reveal anything to Adam Smith.
Exactly. I think he was lying. And the reason why an atheist holds the position that they're an atheist, that they don't believe in a God, is
Well, I
because
think
they
you're
haven't
lying. So
experienced-
where do we go from here?
Exactly. I'm saying because the atheist hasn't had that experience. And if you haven't had the experience, it means you don't have evidence, right? You don't have the evidence of revelation. And actually, I'll give you an example. This is a
But
perfect
what about
example.
all these people? Wait, no, I think you're just avoiding what I'm saying. What about all these people, like different sects? Like we have a sect here on TikTok, they're called like the Ahmadi religion of peace and light or whatever. Their prophet actually claims to be speaking to God, that God is revealing things to him. And they believe him, like his followers. He has like followers from all around the world, right?
Yeah.
And you would reject that. I would reject it too.
Yeah,
But,
okay,
but
so-
he's claiming that it's from God.
So let me first give you an example so that you understand my framework and how this can make a lot of sense. If you had two creatures, let's imagine that these two creatures are a two-dimensional creature and a three-dimensional creature. Now, the two-dimensional creature has basically a perspective that is length and width. They have one quote-unquote slit of view, if you will, on one plane. Now, a three-dimensional creature, let's just say it theoretically comes into the vision of this two-dimensional creature. And this three-dimensional creature has height and it has a shape and it has different widths and so forth. Now, as that three-dimensional creature pops into the view of the two-dimensional creature, what do you think that two-dimensional creature would experience? It would experience something entering into, like popping into existence, right? Just magically finding itself in front of its view. And then as it moves through that
The
plane,
problem with your
All of this is
worldview is that it's circular.
no, wait, as it moves
Yeah.
through that plane,
Look,
what does
Look,
it think? It
King,
thinks,
let me ask you a very specific
hold on,
question.
hold
I don't know
yes,
why the fuck.
bro, I didn't get to land.
I don't know
Let me
why
land.
we're
Let
talking
me
about
land.
flatlands.
King, sorry, I had to mute you. I mean, you keep talking and talking. You have to listen to others too. So go ahead,
I'm
Alex.
making a
Okay,
point.
the question
I'm
is
making
this.
a point.
The
I'm
question is
making a
this. Okay, the question is this. Stop.
It's really
question
stop.
is,
Come on,
right?
come on. Let me finish the point.
How do you-
And you can go. It's no,
Hold
no
on.
big deal.
How do you epistemologically justify that your revelation is from God and not some evil demon or something else?
Yeah, so that creature would think that the three-dimensional creature is magically appearing there, unless the creature is revealing.
Yeah, it could be an interdimensional demon.
Yeah, it could be. It would have to inform it what is taking place. That's the point that I'm making that you don't want to hear, which is justifying my point and my position, is that you need that outside information. You need something external to your subjective self
Yeah,
to
but
inform
how
you.
would you know that it's external? That's the whole point. Like people have
Because it's telling you.
hallucinations and delusions and stuff.
Because it's telling you that it's external. That's why it's revealing it.
It's
Oh my
okay to
God.
admit that you make logical assumptions, man, that you're gonna use to judge even God's revelation, right? You know, there's gonna be like a deeper starting point.
No, I don't agree with that. That's why I see theism as being the answer to all of these problems. Solipsism and idealism and all these issues. We have revelation. Unless you have that revelation, you're going to come
Oh
to
my
this.
God, you're
genuine
completely like deflecting and
I have a
avoiding
genuine question.
the point.
Okay,
Go
No,
ahead,
but
Andy.
if you
Question.
if
I have
you're
a
experiencing the
genuine question.
revelation,
Look,
Go ahead,
one
Alex.
second. So sorry. Look, reflect. You do understand, right? This is a genuine question. Do you understand that it's people like you giving arguments like this that turn a lot of people away from theism?
okay, that's an emotional argument. Do you have a actual argument against it, a counter, like a
It
rebuttal?
wasn't an argument. It was a genuine question, as I repeated 7 times. So you don't. So the answer is no. You don't understand that.
It's of no consequence to me. If somebody is not convinced by the argument, really, that just says that they don't have the same evidence that I have. They don't have the same
What
experience.
argument? But listen, you actually haven't provided any argument. You just say that theism answers it. But when we ask you how, you just say, oh, it's because it comes from the outside. And then when we ask you, but how do you know that it comes from the outside? You don't have any answers.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said that.
Okay, so how do we
revelation-
know it comes from the outside?
Yeah, revelation, it dictates and it presents in two different ways. You have a non-inferential way, and then you have an inferential way. The non-inferential way, it matches with the non-inferential way matches with the inferential way. If they match, then that's an indication that that is a real, true revelation.
Yeah, they do.
If they
No,
don't,
but they do match for a person hallucinating. They do match. So
How?
a hallucinating person I mean, they see a pink elephant and it matches their idea or their
no.
proposition that
No,
there
I
is
said-
a pink elephant.
No, you would have to have a non-inferential evidence or revelation that says there's a pink elephant as well. Do you have that? Do
Yeah,
they
but
have
how
that?
do you know? Yeah, but when you say it says, so is it enough like for the claim to be made in order for us to take it as true?
Yeah, so you would have to have a non-inferential way and an inferential way. So if you have an inferential way that says there is a pink elephant that I created and I am God and so on and so forth, then that is an inferential way that you can say, well, does this match with my non-inferential intuitions, my non-inferential instincts? Then that gives you resonance, and that tells you, okay, so there's something here that's more than
Reflect.
just me.
I don't think you're answering my question. How would we distinguish between something coming from the outside and something internally? So you're saying that people, many people have claimed throughout the ages that they've been speaking to God. I mean, how would you distinguish whether they're actually speaking to God or if it's a hallucination?
Yeah, that's why I said the two different forms, inferential and non-inferential. You have a non-inferential intuition, instinct that is primordial to you, that tells you God exists. That's why we have the understanding that God is something that everyone believes initially, primarily. Then you have an external, inferential process or information or revelation that tells
But you're
you.
just saying it is the case. I mean, how do you know that there is an external revelation?
No, I'm saying it claims to be an external revelation. It claims to be a revelation. What do you mean?
Yeah.
What's so hard to
What do
understand?
you mean it claims? Is that enough?
Of course, if something is claiming to be, if I'm claiming to speak to you and I say my name is Reflect, you're gonna.
Yeah,
take
but
my
I
word
gave
for
you
it, right?
examples of like Adam Smith and Mormonism. I gave you this guy, Ahmed, the Religion of Peace and Light on TikTok. They claim that they're receiving revelations from the outside.
Yeah.
So why don't you become a Mormon or something? I
But
don't know.
does that message resonate with my intuition and my
It
instinctual
resonates with a lot of
non-inferential?
people.
And
There
if
are
it
a lot
does,
of
then
Mormons. There are a lot of like people following the Ahmadi Religion of Peace and Light here on TikTok. You can go and talk to them. They do lives every day.
this is exactly why I said you, as an atheist, if you haven't been revealed to, then you have no external revelation. to
Amazing,
resonate
Cosmic.
with. So
Your
you're going
space
to
on
have-
logic has evolved to a precept conversation, man.
No, you're going to have you're going to have no evidence from the external perspective. That's why you come to the conclusion that there is no God. There's no revelation coming from outside of yourself. So you're going to come to that conclusion.
I had an intuition that everything is physical, and a fly told me that everything is physical,
But
such
do you
that
have-
it resonates with my non-inferential epistemology.
Okay, and that non-inferential is revelatory or not?
Yeah, it's
It's
revelatory.
revelatory. Oh, how? Oh, wait. Now that's a claim. Can you justify that claim? It's revelatory.
Yeah. It just seems to be the case.
That's not. Your seemings are not reliable. It would have to tell
Yeah,
you.
that's what you're saying. Yeah, I
No.
told you. It told me. The fly
I'm not-
told me.
No, I'm not saying.
Yeah, the fly
that
told
it
me,
was my
bro.
seemings.
I told
I'm
you.
saying,
It told me.
you wait. You're saying that-
Non-inferential is not being told something. Do you even know what non-inferential means?
Hold on a second. You're saying that this inferential access that you have, it claims to be revelation.
No, I said, first of all, I had a non-inferential, right?
Yeah. Okay, so
That
what-
everything is physical.
then a fly wouldn't need to tell you.
And
so it's
then-
not inferential.
Yeah, a fly told me. Yeah, a fly
That's-
told me. That made it
that's
resonate.
inferential.
That's the checking method, right? The
No,
fly
that-
made it resonate with my, non-inferential knowledge.
Okay, so now that's framing it properly. So if you have an inferential and intuition,
That's the same fucking thing I said the first time.
No, it isn't. You said that the fly was non-inferential, dude. That's the
Dude, this
wrong
shit
thing.
is brain rot, bro. Are you actually serious or are you trolling?
No, I'm actually serious. I'm actually very serious.
Holy fuck, dude.
Yeah.
That's really sad. That's
How do you
shouldn't be-
receive God's
shouldn't be sad.
revelation if it's not your experience or your cognitive faculties?
It shouldn't be sad. If you have two forms of information that is telling you that it is revelation, that is a very, very strong indication that it's true. And
Yeah, so everything's physical. The fly told me so. It resonates with my non-inferential knowledge that everything was physical. There you go. Everything's physical.
but that's obviously not true. That's obviously a lie.
What do you
for you to
obviously?
convince me-
I mean, do you know how
You're not
many
even convincing
religions there
yourself.
are out there? Reflect. There are so many religions out there, okay? And they're like, all of them, or many of them have like a founder that claimed to be speaking to an external source.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
that would be-
So
that would be
why
the
should we
influence.
believe? Yeah, but why believe something just because they claim to be speaking to an external? I mean, it
It's
doesn't
not
make
just because
sense.
No, it's not just because of that. It's because of the two forms matching in resonance. It's actually really no different than somebody who believes in a scientist who tells them that I did a large hadron collider experiment and I found this blah 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 blah, and they're telling you that you believe them. Their information that they've given to you is revealed to you, so to speak. But you haven't like done the test yourself. You just trust them. You just trust whatever they're telling you. So it's really not that much different. And then anything else in any other field of science or any other field of epistemology, you deal with trust all the time. And so you accept trust. You accept that message and you trust it. You either trust it or you don't trust it. Because why? Well, it jives with me. It makes sense with
I'm going to
me.
go out on a limb here. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I don't think you even know what epistemology is. Can you
don't
tell me
think
what
I
a non-inferential, what is non-inferential knowledge to you?
Yeah, like I
Or
said,
non-inferential justification?
yeah, for me, under my worldview, that would be revelation that is inscribed on the human being before they come through any experiences in this four-dimensional world.
So I'm not familiar with any account in epistemology that talks about non-inferential justification or knowledge in this way. This is totally
Epistemology has,
idiosyncratic and personal to you. You understand that, right?
no, epistemology has to do with how you access or how you obtain knowledge. It's about accessing knowledge. And I believe that there are non-inferential ways to obtain knowledge. But you may not have that opinion. That's fine, but that's your opinion. And I
Yeah,
think
No,
that
I
I
there's
don't
actually
think we
do
need to
think
argue
there
this.
is such a thing.
But like
Yeah,
if
but I
Alex
don't
asked
even
me that
think we need to
question, I would have
argue
said
about that.
knowledge in the absence of some logical train of thought, right? You
So
know,
you
knowledge
believe
in
that
the
there
absence
are...
of that. That would be non-inferential for me.
Wait, I want to kind of like unpack that because I really want to understand. You're saying that you believe that there are non-inferential ways to access knowledge as an atheist.
Yeah, of course I do. Of course I do.
How
I
is that?
don't think there's an infinite regress of logical justifications. I definitely don't think there's an inferential way to know that logic works or that the axioms of logic are true.
Reflect, have you ever heard of knowledge by
closer to God.
acquaintance? Have you ever heard the term
You're asking
knowledge
me?
by acquaintance? Yeah.
Knowledge by acquaintance? No, I'm not familiar with that term.
So knowledge by acquaintance is kind of like when you have an experience and you're essentially just aware that you're having the experience. So for example, like, you know, if I don't know, if you like drop me into a bathtub full of ice, I'm going to feel cold, right? And I know that I am experiencing coldness, and that knowledge did not require any inference, right? I didn't have to sit there and construct it out of prior propositions or anything like that. That's what it means to have knowledge by experience or by acquaintance. You are just simply presented a direct experience and you are aware of the experience.
Now, do you think that that phenomenon is better explained with a God or without a God? A knowledge giver?
I think that phenomenon, I don't know about better explained. I think that phenomenon is just like equally undeniable whether or not God is real.
Yeah, but that's just tautological. It's like just because you can't deny it in your subjective frame that can't escape
Yeah,
the
why would it
reality
be more
of
likely
having
in one
experiences.
worldview than another?
No, I'm saying that just because you can't escape the reality that you do experience
That
things.
actually isn't
My-
even the point. The point of contention here is about whether you can know something externally without an appeal to the internal. You're claiming that you can know that this revelation is external to yourself. But we're asking, how do you know that? because you can only know it through like your own internal knowledge. How do you have access to an external source revealing things to you?
Worse than that, he's actually making a bigger claim. He's saying that he can know, but the atheist cannot. And it's because
Right.
the revelation told him so. It's like a
No, no,
way
no.
stronger claim.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying because revelation told me so. I'm saying because you don't have access to that. You haven't experienced that revelation.
Yeah, but
So how
reflect.
can you
Wait,
come to
wait,
that
reflect.
conclusion?
I want you to be very clear. I am asking you, how do you know that this external source that you're claiming is revealing things to you is indeed external to you? How do you know that?
Because it has revealed itself externally and it has claimed to be external.
But
why I
how
said
do you
it's
know
literally-
that revelation comes from an external source instead of like a voice in your head?
Because it has claimed to be so. That's why.
Okay,
The
that's a
inter
good one.
look,
Voices
look,
in my
me
head
as
say
a
the
subject.
same shit, bro.
Look, me as a subjective
And
being.
then I
Me as a
found
sub-
myself in a white room.
I'll
So
explain it
what's
to
the
you.
problem?
Look,
I'll
what
explain
I'm
to you.
saying to you is that the assumption that there's anything external
you
to
guys
you
are just leveling
is
a bunch of
logically
stuff.
prior
Let
to
me respond
revelation,
to
man.
Guys, let me respond at least. If I, as an have the intuit and the instinctual feeling and sense that something outside of me is occurring that affects me, and that's a feeling and a sense that I have, that knowledge that he was referring to, I can't remember the term that he used, but that by acquaintance, knowledge by acquaintance, and that's telling me that there's something outside of myself. The only way I can have that sense is if something gives me that knowledge, and that's the
No, but
non-inferential.
how would
That's
you
the
know? Okay,
non-inferential.
is your claim? Let me just clarify something.
I'm
Is your
trying to
claim
explain
that?
it.
Yeah, okay. So is your claim the following: that whatever is experienced by you cannot be false? Like every experience you have is indeed true.
Well, what do you mean by true? That's like a propositional claim. I don't know what you mean.
Oh my God. Because you claim that when this so-called external source tells you that it is external, it is indeed external. And I'm trying to understand, like, what justifies that? Is your justification that because you feel or it seems to be that way, it is the case?
No, because two things. Because of the non-inferential, which is not something that you actually have to experience. It's something that you have as a primordial sense, like this knowledge by acquaintance.
But that doesn't follow. So, for example, you could
does
have
that
like you could have acquaintance with something that is not like corresponding to anything externally real. So, for example, if I put a stick in water, it looks bent to me. So my experience tells me that it's bent, but like externally, it's not actually bent. It's still a straight stick.
Yeah. So do you have an external source that's telling you that it is bent? What external revelatory
Yeah, but
information are
yeah,
like?
but
Do you have a
that
science
is-
book that's telling you
That
it's
is
bent?
what's in but wait, that is what's in contention here. The contention is like, why should I grant that when you say this source is external to me, that is in fact true? Like, why should I grant that?
Yeah, this is a
Just
great
because
question.
it feels so to you?
It's a great question. So you have internal seemings, and then you have this information that's being revealed to you that's telling you, hey, this is what is and this is what is not. Now, if those are in concert with one another, that's the strongest sense of what is real and what exists and what is true. But if
Look,
you have
when
those
you
two
say that
are
you
not-
receive
Hold on, let me just-
revelation
let me
from an
just finish,
external
man.
source,
Every
you're
time I try to
already
explain things-
presupposing. You're already presupposing an
every time I
external
try to
world, right?
explain, I get cut off. So you gotta give, it's
Yeah,
give and take.
I don't give a fuck, man. What you're saying is stupid. Yeah, you're already presupposing an external world when you receive external revelation.
Yeah, you're
In concert
basically
with one another,
presupposing
that's when you-
that what you think is external is in fact external, just because it seems so to you.
No, what I'm saying is when they're not in concert with one another, the internal and the external, then you have other forms of epistemology to rely upon. That could be your empirics. That could be your.
But
your,
it is in
your-
conflict.
Your,
But wait,
your logic and your
It is in
rationality.
conflict because it is in conflict
What's in
because
conflict?
when you claim that, the conflict is this: when you claim that you're hearing or experiencing an external source, that's not something I have access to. So
Right.
it's
That's not in conflict.
it's not in correspondence to my experience. It's just your personal experience that you're appealing to make a objective type of claim. Why should I grant that?
Unlocked.
Yeah, like if God came up to me and told me, look, the laws of logic are real, and you can know that because I'm a perfect being who's revealing this to you, I'd be, well, thank you, God, but I already knew that. I already have my axioms.
Were you guys able to hear me? I asked.
No, we couldn't hear.
Okay, I asked a clarifying question. I said, when you say that it's in conflict because it's a subjective experience, are you saying it's contradictory, or are you saying something other than that?
No, I'm just saying it's in conflict with my experience. Your experience, when you claim to hear voices externally, is in conflict to mine. If we indeed
so?
share, if we are sharing, if we are participating in a shared reality, then it shouldn't be the case, right? When you hear something externally, I should also be able to hear it because we share the same reality.
But it's not like this sound is, or this information is going through the airwaves. It's not, it's like you can have headphones.
So it
on
is internal. But wait. Then it is internal. Then it's not external.
No, I'm saying that it's from outside of myself. It claims to be outside of myself, and it reveals,
Oh my God. You just
it reveals that
contradicted
knowledge.
yourself.
That doesn't make it. That doesn't make it contradictory, nor does it make it in conflict.
The reductio to this is just so absurd. So the schizophrenia patient, right, has a non-inferential justification for thinking the government is watching them. They have a voice external to them from their perspective. Tell them, yes, the government is watching you. So under that view, this is just true.
Wait, so
You don't see the issue
according
there,
to
bro?
their worldview, hold on, I'm going to follow exactly your example.
true that the
Under
government-
this worldview of the schizophrenic,
It's true that the government is watching.
following your worldview. Okay, I'm following your worldview. Is there something external that is telling them that that is the case? Something external to them, revealed, that
Yes.
says there's
There was a
revealed.
voice. There was a voice that revealed to them. It said, "I am external to you, and it is true that the government is watching you."
Look, man, use some cognitive empathy. Think of it from the point of view of a schizo. Also, your mic cut off again, man.
Alex, could you mod? I need to do something for like, I don't know, 20 minutes or something.
Revelation, and it provides this knowledge to them, external to themselves, and it claims to be external to themselves, and all of that is lining up. Well, of course, they're going to come to the conclusion that that is real, right? But what does that have to do with me accepting their reality? I don't have to accept their reality, just like you don't have to accept my reality.
Perfect.
But
Yeah, perfect. Right.
But what's
So
what's
nobody
interesting?
should
Alex,
take them
sorry, I
seriously,
didn't
right?
hear you answer. Can you mod
Yes,
Alex for
the
20
answer is
minutes?
yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks.
Yes.
You were
So
not
that's
able to do-
perfect, actually, King. Nobody should take that person seriously, just as well as nobody should take you seriously. Thank you for confirming.
Well, that's funny because absolutely every 2 billion Muslims across the world do take that very seriously. They do take that as being inscribed. It's called the fitra in our religion. The fitra is that which is not something that is inferential. It's non-inferential. It's something that's inscribed upon the human being. It's revealed to us.
I actually shouldn't talk. I'm very busy, but I just need to stop you there. I'm a Muslim and that is false. No Muslim is claiming that they believe in Islam because of something in their nature itself. I mean,
What?
they didn't come to believe in the Prophet Muhammad because of their internal experiences or something.
Really? So you don't think that a person who is born as a Muslim, were you born as a Muslim?
Yes, I don't want to take the discussion there, but what you said was just false.
It's just not false. It is not false at all. And obviously, I'm making an argument against people that make atheistic arguments. So obviously, I'm approaching it from that angle. And why Islam has the strongest justification is because you have that resonance between the two. And in all these scenarios that you guys gave, these hypotheticals, obviously, none of them really show two forms,
Let me be
non-inferential and inferential.
Let me try to
None of them show that.
understand. Let me try to understand what you're saying. So, what you're saying is that you're able to make knowledge claims in the same way that a schizophrenic patient is able to make knowledge claims. But
No,
the
because
atheist is not able to do so, right?
no, because the schizophrenic, I would claim, obviously your example was hypothetical, which would not be really the case. I would claim that the schizophrenic does not have any external revelation that is claiming to be a revelatory source, that claims to be true, and that claims to be a knowledge giver. It doesn't have that. The schizophrenic just
Why do
has
they believe it? Then why do they
just have
believe
their,
it? Then
because
why
they
do they
just have their
believe it?
signals. They just have their signals.
Yeah,
That's it. That's all
yeah.
they have.
As do you, right? What
No,
privileges you over the schizophrenic patient? That's the whole critique that you're completely missing.
it's, as I said, it's
You're not giving any
non-inferential.
justification other than the voice said so. That's what the
No,
schizophrenic says.
no. You're confusing and conflating this non-inferential source from an inferential source. Like you confused it and conflated it with flies. A fly telling you that it is a revelatory source is not something that's non-inferential. Non-inferential is something that you have from birth. It's something that you have automatically. That's, as the other guy in the panel said,
Yeah,
that's
listen,
knowledge
I don't
by
know if you're not
acquaintance.
tracking the examples or if you're intentionally being dishonest, but someone else can talk to this guy after I say this. What I said about the schizophrenic patient was that they had a non-inferential intuition, knowledge, justification, right? That the government was watching them. They then had an external voice, a voice external to them, confirm that non-inferential knowledge. Okay.
So in order for it to be non-inferential,
The voice said, yes, you're correct. The government is watching you. Under your system of justification and epistemology, that would just be true.
okay, so was there a
So
point
what
at
I'm asking you is,
which,
for the symmetry breaker between the account that I just gave and your account of how you come to knowledge about this, God or whatever, God existing. Okay? Because if you can't provide one, right, then the reductio is just that, right? We shouldn't take that person seriously just as well as we shouldn't take you seriously.
okay, so my clarifying question would be, this schizophrenic, was there a point at which they did not believe that the government was watching them?
No, they always believed it.
Oh, they always believed this. Even as a 3-year-old child, they believed the government was watching them.
Yeah,
And they didn't even know what government meant. They didn't even know what watching meant. They had no understanding of it. That's you know what that is? That's inferential. And that's why I said that you have to have both accounts. Non-inferential is something that you have at birth. It's instinctual. It's intuitive. It's something that
Oh,
is
so you have the concept of God at birth.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly as it is claimed. Yeah.
Okay. What do you think the concept of God at birth for a newborn is?
What does that mean? What kind of question is that? It's too vague.
Yeah. Can you describe, right, a newborn conception of God, please?
Yeah, so the reason I can't describe that experience is because after the critical period, a child reaches the age of 2 and they no longer have memories prior to that. So there's no way to actually access that. There's no way to actually live within a 2-year-old's mind.
What do you think
and
a
understand what
concept
that experience
is?
is.
What is a concept? What do you think a concept is?
Why are you asking me that question? Sounds like a, red herring.
Because look, man, just tell me what you think a concept is.
No, I want to understand how it's relevant to the conversation.
It's relevant because you're saying that newborn babies have concepts.
No, I
And
said
I
that
want
they
to know
don't
what
have.
you think a concept is.
Yeah, a newborn baby doesn't have that experience. And as it said that I can't access that experience.
Can you just answer the question? What do you think a concept is?
But it's not something that I'm claiming. I'm not claiming that a newborn baby.
Yeah, you said a
has some
newborn
kind of-
baby has a concept of God.
I said I don't have.
Everybody heard it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I said,
everybody heard you. Everybody heard you. Can
and
you
I
just
said I don't have access to that.
Yeah,
I
so
said I-
you
yeah,
think
I
a
said I don't
newborn
have access.
baby. Okay, stop, dude. Look, you said that a newborn baby has a concept of God. I'm
Yeah.
asking you what you think a concept is.
Well, I believe, as somebody who's not before the critical period, that it would just mean that you have an understanding of it. That it is a real thing within your experiential framework. So,
If that's not what a concept is.
okay, no problem. If it's not technically the exact definition of a concept, that's fine. I don't mind. I'm not trying to be so pedantic about this. I'm making a general argument The argument is strong and it's solid. And, really the only way to really defeat this is you would have to have something outside of your own frame in order to inform you otherwise. But you don't. And that's why you're stuck. If you're an atheist, you're really committed to all these problems. You're committed to solipsism,
Does
idealism.
anyone else want to talk? Does anyone else want to talk to this guy? Because if
Yeah.
not, I'm just going to drop him. This
So
is like brain rot.
Reflex. So I think what you're appealing to is called teleology promiscuity. So just because, and it is kind of a cognitive, you are literally just like appealing to a cognitive bias. What you are appealing to is not a form of like consistent knowledge.
Yeah, can you just describe and define that? What is that?
Okay, so what we call teleology promiscuity is, for example, they did an experiment and then they take all these little children, right? And then just because like they have this bias of when they ask them about things, like asking them about cloud or stuff like that, and them saying that, this thing must have a purpose, right? There must probably be something that lead to this, that created this, or there must be something that created this for a certain purpose. That is a cognitive bias. It is an experiment that has been done consistently.
Hello?
Hello, I think I was muted.
Yeah, I said, are you saying that this is kind of like the idea that children that are unadulterated, if you will, or uninfluenced, they're asked about very basic primordial questions about fundamental things like God's existence and things like that? Is that what you're talking about, or you're talking about something else?
Yeah, because like based on let me stem your arguments before I repeat what I said. So your argument is that human beings, like, we have this tendency to appeal to God, right? Like it is like something like in our nature, right from birth. Is that what you're saying? Reflect.
He doesn't have an argument, man. I don't even know why we're entertaining this. It's literally
because the argument is just undeniable, and that's why it's so strong.
What is the argument? What is the argument? Let me hear it first.
Yeah, so, well, it's an argument, honestly, against atheism. Just undercuts and defeats atheism completely. And that argument is a very simple one. 2 premises and 1 conclusion. If you haven't heard it, just because I'm the only one that has ever used it, because I came up with it. So it's anything which can be conceived of exists. God is conceivable, therefore God exists. And an atheist is committed to that. And if they're committed to that and they have the belief that God does not exist, then they're living in cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, let's go back to premise one. So anything which can be conceived of exists, right? What do you mean by exists there? Do you mean ontically? What modality are we talking about there?
The moment we say ontically, you're taking on certain assumptions that the atheist cannot assume. So it would be...
Sorry. I'm going to need you to just answer the fucking question. When
the
you
problem
say
is your questions are
premise one
with assumptions.
Yeah, look, I'm like really fed up. When you say exists in premise 1, what do you mean?
Yeah, so what I mean by exists means that it is present. It means that it is real. It means that it is full stop. Right? That's what exists means.
Okay, so anything that you could conceive on that premise, what you mean is that if human being, anything that we could conceive is real.
Yes, anything under the atheistic worldview, yes, that is a true premise.
No, what makes that true? I'm really confused. Why should I accept that to be true?
Because in the same way that you come to certain truths in your own worldview, the same way this is true. So because it has the same fundamental structure, format of those things which exist, then guess what? It exists under your worldview.
But hold on a second.
You can conceive of, it exists.
No. That's false. So obviously, even an atheist will say that any like proposition requires justification before it can be true. So So what's the justification for why I would have to accept that?
Is that what you're
Sorry,
asking?
you cut out for a little while. Could you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I said, do you mean like the argument for the premise? Anything which can be conceived of exists? Yeah. I mean, I
yeah.
could
Like,
give you
why
an
in the
argument.
world would I accept that?
Yeah. I mean, I just did it informally, right? Whatever the atheist treats as existent, it must be known through experience, and whatever is genuinely conceived is known through experience. So therefore,
That's
whatever is genuinely conceived satisfies the atheist criterion for what exists.
wait a
So
second. No, I mean that's clearly false because I can conceive of things that entail contradictions, right?
you cannot conceive of a contradiction. That would be
Yeah,
incoherent.
watch this. Watch this. I can clearly conceive of a time machine. I get into the time machine. I travel back in time, meet my grandfather before he met my grandmother, and unalive him. Do you see the contradiction?
No, you could conceive of that happening. So you're what you're saying is you can conceive of your great great grandfather or your great grandfather being dead and you being alive at the same time. You can conceive of that.
Yeah, I can conceive of me being able to perform this action, like it appears to be possible to me.
No, so what you just demonstrated is that you can describe contradictions, but you can't actually conceive and cohere of them. Just like I can describe a square circle, but that doesn't mean I can actually conceive of it.
Bro,
So
like all these things that you are doing are just semantic bullcrap, man. What do you mean by what is it?
not
So
semantic bullcrap. It's just
yeah,
the truth.
yeah, reflect. Wait a second. So like so this is how human mind work. At least I mean, like to an extent, right? In order for you to be able to describe something, you have to conceive it first in your mind. Can we both agree on that? Because
Yeah,
if you couldn't conceive of something, there's no way you can communicate it, right? So
yeah,
what
but
do you mean by what do you mean by that so like what do you mean by it didn't conceive what you just said? Like
wait, you
it
said
didn't
in order for you to describe something, you have to conceive of it first. You could describe something like I could say the grass over there is black, right? That wouldn't really make sense, and I didn't conceive of it, but I did describe it. It doesn't mean it actually makes sense. I can't necessarily cohere of it. So, and I could even do it in another language that I don't understand, and it would be actually a descriptor, but I don't understand it.
So reflect like what you just said about you saying grass blah, 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 you know what I mean? Did you think about that word before you said it?
No, I did. I just had my lips move and my tongue move and wag.
Can we both agree that in order for you to say something, you have to process it first before you say it?
No, you can say anything. There are people who read the Quran and don't understand it at all, but they're describing things
Did their
in
brain process it
beautiful
before it says
volumes.
it? Did their brain process it before it said it?
Did the brain process what? The meaning of it? The semantic content? No, not necessarily.
Okay, so you're saying it is impossible. So you're saying that it is possible for you to say something without your brain processing it at first?
Yeah, it's possible, very possible. You do it all the
Okay.
time. We do it all the time. We can talk about things and just repeat things and not understand. That's why we ask questions. Question is inquiry. When I ask a question, it's because I don't understand it. So I can
Yes,
still
look,
say words and not understand.
look. What is the justification for premise one? Premise one is if it can be conceived of, it exists. I'm still not clear what you mean by exists. You said it's real. I take that to mean what you mean by exists is concrete or it exists ontically, right? Is that correct?
Okay, so when I say, because this is an internal critique, when I say exists in this argument, because it's internal critique, it's whatever you define exists as. So if you define exists as some sort of an ontic thing and you're taking on certain assumptions in that explanation, then those assumptions have to be first vetted and they have to be presented as being real assumptions that we should accept and adopt. But you can't actually prove those things are ontic or ontologically real. You can't actually prove that. So you shouldn't. The
So
point
I
is, you
mean,
should not.
look, that's a whole lot of words to say nothing. Look, by exist. Okay, if it's
Maybe
an
you just didn't
internal critique
understand
on
it.
my, I don't know why you're interrupting me. If it's an internal critique on my view, right? What I mean by exist is I mean ontically. I can clearly conceive of unicorns, right? But I don't think unicorns exist ontically or exist at all. really. Not even.
Okay, let me ask you an important question. I'm going to ask you an important question. Does this phone in my hand, does it ontically or ontologically exist?
No, the phone is not a fundamental, right?
So it doesn't exist.
The phone is a composite object. I'm a mereological nihilist.
Okay, so the phone does not exist, correct? Under your worldview.
Correct.
Okay, so can you name one thing that exists under your worldview?
Consciousness.
Okay, consciousness exists.
First of all, why are we even going down this line of questioning when you're supposed to be
Hey, you brought it
justifying
up.
your premise one?
I did.
I did not bring
justify
up.
it.
Look, your premise one is if it's conceivable, it exists.
Anything which
If
can be
I
conceived
exist,
Yeah.
I mean under my view, ontically.
Yeah.
Okay? There
And
are
are you-
clearly things that I can conceive of which don't exist, such as unicorns.
Now, before you can accept that there are things existing ontically, would you not agree that you need to have some justification for that? Or is it just like a brute fact that you have?
Say it again.
Would you agree that if you are claiming something exists ontically, that you have to have some justification for it? Or you're just making an assumption and then you're assuming that these things exist ontically and you really don't have.
What does this have to do? What does this have to do with the thing about unicorns that I just brought up?
Because under your worldview, you would have to justify those things just like you require it in any other claim.
Have to justify unicorns not existing, bro. What are you talking about?
Because like you said, consciousness, right? You said consciousness exists. So if consciousness exists, that
We're
means
talking about
anything within
unicorns right now.
Right.
We're talking
So-
about unicorns right now.
Exactly. So if consciousness exists, then that means the unicorn is in your consciousness. Yes or no?
We're talking about unicorns right now.
I'm talking about unicorns too. So if your consciousness exists, then unicorns exist in your consciousness. That means it exists. Right? Thank you.
Because exists means ontically, right? A unicorn is going to be some composite mental object. A unicorn itself does not exist ontically.
Can you explain the distinction between something that is conscious and something that is ontically real?
Bro, holy fucking category confusions. What?
Yeah, I'm asking you to describe the distinction between something that is ontologically real and something that is just consciously real. Because you said consciousness exists. That means everything within your conscious must exist. So what is the distinction between these two things in your worldview?
Yeah, look at what inference is telling you. The object of awareness doesn't necessarily exist. Look, are you familiar
That's just an assumption.
with mereology?
That's just an
Are you
assumption.
familiar
That's your
with-
presupposition.
Stop talking over me. Are you familiar with mereology? Do you know what
that-
mereology is?
I don't. I don't.
Yes or no? Okay.
I admit I don't know what that is.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So,
But what does that have
mereology
to
is
do
the
with your
philosophy of-
presupposition?
Yeah. I'm gonna explain it. I don't know why you keep interrupting. Mereology is the philosophy of parts and things, right? Objects, stuff, right? So, if one is a mereological nihilist, the only things which exist are the simples, right? So, like, let's say I was a physicalist, mereological nihilist. The only things which exist to me are the fundamental particles. But we can arrange those fundamental particles chair-wise, phone-wise, right? And so a unicorn is going to be fundamental particles arranged brain-wise, and even more particularly, arranged thought-wise, okay? And that's what I call a unicorn. That unicorn does not exist. That's an extra label on top of the actual, what is just simples.
Wait, do you believe that mentation exists?
So someone
Do
else
you-
can talk.
Do you believe that? Wait, whoa, no. Don't run from this. Do you believe that mentation exists? Yes or no? Don't run from it.
Stop running, Alex. Stop running.
What is mentation?
Yes or no? Mentation is the primordial makeup of all mental things. And so he just said that unicorns, they are made up of this mental stuff, So if it is fundamental, like consciousness, as he said, consciousness exists, if it is fundamental like that, then that would mean the unicorn also exists under his worldview, which would completely
He didn't say
debunk
that. He
his
didn't say
position.
that. He was
I
just
don't think
giving an
that
hypothesis.
I don't think that that necessarily follows, right? Because what he's saying is that, like, look, there could consciousness may be fundamental, right? And there's this like substance of consciousness or something that gives rise to, you know, thought. But concepts are not consciousness, right? And so it could be that
Concepts are not.
concepts are the subject of thought, but it doesn't follow that because he believes consciousness exists, and what he means by exists is having like some spatial temporal extension or it existing concretely. It doesn't follow then that the content of his consciousness also exists.
Then it
That would
shouldn't.
that would be something that you'd have to justify why he would have to commit to that.
Only because he literally just boxed himself in by saying that the fundamental makeup of the chair is those primordial things that make up the chair. Those things exist, but the chair itself
I'm
doesn't
gonna
actually
explain it to
exist.
you one more time. If you don't get it this time, I'm seriously just gonna drop you, okay? Because look, there is a
I got it.
fundamental substance. Yeah, there's a fundamental substance. Under my view, that's consciousness. Under some other people's views, that's going to be physical, right? When you arrange that fundamental substance in different ways, you get what you might call composite objects, okay? But I reject composite objects, okay? Which means that they don't exist. So whether a chair or a unicorn exists is dependent on my view in Mariology, because a chair and a unicorn are both composite objects. They don't exist under my view. Do you understand? Yes or no?
Great. Great. I understand. So then I don't exist. The phone doesn't exist. You don't exist. Pretty much nothing exists that is made up of these fundamental composites, right? Absolutely nothing is. I mean, the trees don't exist outside. The house doesn't exist, right? That's your worldview. So this is why this argument, what it does.
Yeah, so by exist, we mean ontically, right? What I would say is that the tree is the fundamental substance arranged tree-wise. The phone is the fundamental substance arranged phone-wise, right? So by exist, we mean it doesn't exist at the fundamental level.
Okay, please don't mute me. What I'm trying to explain is either you come to the conclusion that either nothing exists at all or everything exists in your coherence or in your consciousness, in your thought. That
Yeah, every time you say something really stupid, I'm going to mute you. Okay?
no,
That
it's
should
not. It's
follow.
not. The problem is you're not following. You're not tracking what I'm saying because I heard what you said. I heard your argument and I heard your position. Your mirological argument. Your position is essentially that these fundamental substances that make up things that we call chair and table and so forth, you're saying that the things that are made up of those fundamental composites, they do not exist, but the composites themselves exist. Is that correct?
No,
Okay.
you're getting it backwards.
Okay.
The composite object.
the composite objects exist or not.
Yeah, are you right? Yeah, I don't know, bro.
I'm listening.
Dude. Right? This the simplest range what's tree was. Idea was.
Alex, you're lagging.
Yeah, I can't hear what he's saying.
So
Did anyone else?
whilst Alex is fixing that, maybe I could try my attempts on it. Because it's we're talking about something obviously exists, but this isn't an anti-realist position. We're not saying nothing exists. Look, a table's clearly there, a unicorn is clearly a thing, but we're saying the thing of itself doesn't actually exist in the composite that we've created. A table isn't like a literal table doesn't exist in that same way. Obviously, there's a thing that I'm sat on or a chair, right? But and that's the distinction that we're trying to say. We're not saying nothing exists. We're saying all is one in a sense, and there's no distinction, which is very different.
Everything is relational. The way everything appears is only in relation to the thing that it's measuring. That's what we're saying.
So under your worldview, everything is relational. Does that mean or water, those fundamental, elemental things, are you saying they exist or they don't exist?
What do you mean by exist?
So there's something there, right? When we observe elements, there's clearly something that we're observing, right? But what we're trying to say is that these categories that we've made aren't distinctive, aren't separate. So we can tie a linguistic label and say, hey, this is hydrogen, this is oxygen, and together these create, two hydrogen and one oxygen creates water. But actually, the physicalist says it stops at hydrogen and particles. We're going even further and saying even this linguistic category of a hydrogen, an atom, and particles is itself an arbitrary linguistic observation, because we're mereologists, mereological nihilists. All is one. There's no distinction in that sense.
Here, just real quick. So what I'm saying is, if I touch a tree with my soft skin, I'm going to deduce that the tree is hard, but it's only in relation to my soft skin. If my skin was harder than the tree, then I would deduce that the tree was soft. So everything is relational. And you're asking, well, what is it when it's not in relation? How the fuck would I know?
Okay, so then what does exists mean under your worldview? Because what Alex said is that it means that these fundamental. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, look, yeah. So there's a bit of a double conversation happening here. I think Vince and Metatrip probably came in late. What's happening here is a dispute over Reflect King's premise 1, which goes, if something is conceivable, it exists. Okay, and so we're talking about what exists under my view. What exists under my view is whatever is fundamental. Okay, exist just means ontically, under my view. Okay, composite objects don't exist under my view because I'm a mereological nihilist. All that exists are the fundamentals. What part of this do you not understand, Reflect?
So when I asked you for an example of something that exists, you said consciousness. Right or wrong?
Sorry, what part of what I just said do you not understand?
I'm clarifying so that I can answer your question, right? So when I asked you for an example of what was existent, what exists, you said consciousness. That would mean that, according to the description that you just gave, that consciousness is not fundamental or it is fundamental. That's where my confusion is. What are you saying about existing things? Are they fundamental? Are they not fundamental? What actually exists in your worldview? By way of the description.
It's so confusing for you. Do you see what Jim just said in the comments?
To your argument.
Consciousness is the only thing that exists under my view.
And Alex, I think you're letting him pivot. What does that have to do with his argument?
I mean, why couldn't you just say that from the beginning? Consciousness is the only thing that exists in my worldview. Great. Okay. So now we have something to build off of, right? So if that's the only thing that exists in your worldview, then anything which can be conceived of, I would claim is a part of your consciousness. Is that a good a statement that you would accept or no?
So this is why we've been talking about mereology for the last 20 minutes, because those things which are conceived of would be considered composite mental objects. They're going to be arrangements of the fundamental substance. Those conceptions, right, don't exist. Only consciousness exists.
Wait a second. So when you're describing what consciousness is, which I haven't asked you yet, but if you were to describe what consciousness is, and your description gave me some detailed referential understanding of what consciousness is, would consciousness no longer exist because it's now something that you have built off of, like from this consciousness is fundamental, but you're describing it like you would describe anything else in your consciousness, because those things don't exist. Just the consciousness itself is
You're
being
just
described.
using the word, look, you're using the word exists in a way that I'm not using it. When I say exists, I'm referring to that which is fundamental, right? Any kind of construction or composite is not fundamental. Therefore, it does not exist.
So existing means fundamental.
I don't know why,
We could equate the two.
Alex, I don't know why you let him burden shift like this. He's
It's not burden
questioning
shifting.
your
I'm trying to
worldview.
understand his worldview. I'm trying to understand his worldview because this is very different than I've ever heard. So it's a good conversation. So he's saying that consciousness.
If you just
is
study
fundamental.
Eastern philosophy, this type of information has been around for thousands of years in Buddhism and Hinduism, brother. This is nothing new. Just so you know.
Cool. Hey, I'm not all knowing. I don't claim to be God.
No, I was just clearing that up. I just didn't want you to think this is some new age stuff or something like that. That's all.
Okay, cool, no problem. So to understand his position, consciousness exists because it is fundamental. So anything which is fundamental exists. Is that a premise that you would accept?
So you're talking to Alex still,
Bro,
right?
I don't know why you keep asking the same question.
What's wrong with
Have
my
I not
question?
answered this question 40 times already?
Okay, what is
What
wrong
is
with
happening
my? I asked you. I said, if consciousness is the only thing that exists, you said because it is fundamental. I'm asking, is it the case that anything which is fundamental anything which is fundamental exists? Is that the case? Yes or no? That would be a deduction, right?
That which is fundamental is that which exists.
Right. Okay.
That which exists is that which is fundamental.
Great. Okay. So anything which is fundamental exists. Consciousness is fundamental, therefore consciousness exists. And if there are no other fundamental things and it's only consciousness, can you just try to describe consciousness for me in a way that would be non-tautological?
Why would I do that?
Because I want to understand your worldview. Because these are just claims. It's like claims
Why?
without basis.
No, we're focusing. Look, I entertained it for a moment, but what we're supposed to be focusing on is your justification for your premise one, that anything which is conceivable exists. I'm telling you that I reject composite objects. Even as an idealist where everything is consciousness, that doesn't follow that my conceptions are real or concrete in any way.
The reason why my questions are so relevant is because of the
In
fact
fact,
that this
it's
is
a direct
critique.
contradiction. Yeah, under my view, it would be a direct contradiction. It would be a P and not P, right?
Yeah, yes.
And also,
So I'm getting at
also,
the
I
meta.
think that we could grant Alex. Just a second, Alex. I think we could grant him the first premise, and it would still not lead to God.
It definitely will. He has to reject premise one because otherwise that necessarily leads to God.
Yeah, but if that's the case, then it also leads to unicorns and all sorts of things.
Right, and that would be a problem under your worldview or his worldview, not my worldview.
Is this an argument? Wait. Is this an argument for your worldview, or is it a critique of, I don't know, atheism or something?
It's a critique of the position that I believe that there are no gods. It's the critique.
Okay, but
of
if that's the case, that's even worse. That's even worse because an atheist wouldn't grant that. I mean, why should an atheist grant that everything you can conceive of exists?
That's because they're committed to it, and I gave the reasons why they would be committed to it.
How is
And
an
actually-
atheist committed to that? That's
But
not
then
true.
we're going back into a circle of it, and that's why these clarifying questions were so important. Is because it's internal critique, and I'm proving the case and the point that under his
Okay,
mereological
let's
worldview-
ask atheists. So just Jim, I think you're an atheist. Would you
Yeah,
like
they're all gonna say
confirm
no.
or reject that everything you can conceive of exists?
Yeah, I would reject that. Yeah, that's
Of course.
There you go. Reflect. There you go.
But
So he
this is
didn't
not-
grant
but
you
this
the
is
first
not-
premise.
This is not monumental, Cosmic. Like, obviously they're going to reject it because they have to. But because the worldview, because of the worldview
What are you
that they
trying to
hold,
say? Are you
Because of the
saying that
worldview
he's
that they hold.
lying? Are you saying
No,
he's
I'm-
lying?
they hold. They have certain commitments that they are necessarily committed to, that they have to accept within their worldview.
well,
like
that's what
like
we're
solipsism.
asking. What's the argument that an atheist is committed to that?
Yeah, so these are the commitments: solipsism, nihilism, idealism, moral bankruptcy. These are all commitments that, under your worldview, without a God, you have
False.
no way out of it.
False.
The reason,
That's false.
and the reason is,
That doesn't follow. That doesn't follow.
I'll give you why it follows. Because as a subjective being, you have no referent outside of yourself to refer to that gives you information and
All right,
gives
so
you
let's
context.
look at this. Let's look at this. All right. So justification for P1, whereby the conclusion is going to be anything that's conceivable must exist. your first premise is that as somebody who has no external reference, we have no way to gauge what we know.
You
Is
have
that
no
right?
way, you have no way to determine what is or is not, what exists or what does not exist, what is real
All right.
or what is not.
So premise one is that without an external reference, we have no way to know what exists or doesn't exist. All right. What's premise two?
Objectively. You can throw that in there too.
Sure.
Yeah. So as a consequence to that,
What's
I mean, I
premise
have to
two?
write it down. Yeah, I have to write it down. So
How do we get to therefore
the premise two.
everything that's conceivable must exist? Because that seems like blatantly like a contradiction there, right? Because to say that what is conceivable exists is to already commit to something existing, and your first premise says that we can't do that, right? So you're already contradicting yourself.
Hold on, let's write it
in your
out.
argument.
Let's write it out. So you said because the first argument, which is anything which can be conceived of exists, and the first part to this is because you have no way to disambiguate between an objective reality, a subjective reality, what is real, what is not real, what exists, what doesn't exist, because you can't actually determine those things and you have no epistemic access to the objective reality, then you are committed to only that which you know to be true, which you know to be real. And the things that you know to be real are what?
Yeah, but the issue there is that when you say that which you know to be real, you're already kind of baking in a standard by which an atheist would have some conception of what is real, and you're already negating that in your first premise.
How is it negated in the first premise?
Because you're stipulating that they have no way to actually know what is real and what is not real.
Okay.
So you can't say you can't know what is real and you know what is real. That's
No
a direct
problem.
contradiction.
No problem. Because this is informal, I'll change the word to claim, because that's what I mean when I say no. In that second premise, that it's what you claim to be real, what you claim to exist. So the things that you claim to exist, like your consciousness, right? Then if you're claiming that exists, you have no real access, no epistemic access to determine anything else outside of that. You don't have a way, right? So that means whatever is just within your consciousness exists. Fine. So if everything in your consciousness exists, then anything which can be conceived of exists. But I mean,
Well,
you're actually
it doesn't.
conceding.
Wait, hold on. So even if we were to kind of like grant that first one or something, it doesn't follow that because we experience, right? And let's call experience or kind of use experience and consciousness interchangeably, right? Because it seems like that's what you're doing. Just because we know consciousness exists, it doesn't then follow that the content of your consciousness, those things that you think of or conceive of, also exist. That doesn't seem to follow, right? Because there's a difference between the experience and the thing being experienced.
So then
And I
let's,
think that was a kind of like conflation you were doing on Alex's view as well.
but that's why I was unpacking his worldview. So I asked the question, what is consciousness then? What is consciousness? If it is ontological.
Guys, I think that we are letting him like pivot from the point. Just Jim, I don't know if you were here, but earlier he was saying that the reason he believes in God is because he have access to an external source that has revealed the truth to him.
Yeah, but I'm asking about clarifying understanding of his worldview. What is consciousness? Because that's going to really that'll dissolve all these questions.
That doesn't really support the first premise of your argument, right? That what we conceive of must exist, right? Given an internal critique of the person that you're speaking to and what they understand by conception and what they understand by existence.
For the sake of argument, I'll accept and I'll grant that. No problem. But that's why I'm asking this question. What actually is consciousness then? What is consciousness?
Yeah, I mean, like consciousness.
How is that relevant?
That's
Oh
not
my
relevant.
God.
What,
That's not relevant to
keep running
the
from
notion
that.
of- it's not a run. It's a pivot, right? You're pivoting. You're pivoting from the notions of conception and the notions of existence that an atheist has, and making a claim that they must be committed, necessarily committed, that conception equals existence. And you're not.
Then
you're not
all it
doing
is-
that.
Okay, then all it is an assumption. It's just an assumption, and you could assume anything under that worldview, just like I could assume that, well, consciousness is made of mentation, and that's because the mental has these
Wait,
these
what is an
things
assumption?
that
What
create
is an assumption?
mentation.
I don't
The
understand. What is
assumption, the assumption that consciousness exists. Why is that a position that anyone should accept
Yeah,
or
but
adopt?
nobody's mentioning consciousness here. We're talking about conceivability
Wait,
and
what?
existence. Your first
You
premise,
could
your first premise is,
You're extremely confused.
hold on, your
You're
first premise
extremely
is,
confused.
you are, like, your first premise is that which can be conceived must exist, and that an atheist is necessarily committed to that. So the things that we're trying to unpack here is nothing about consciousness, but about what conceivability is and what existence is under the particular view of the atheist that you're addressing.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
atheist I'm
exactly.
addressing,
Like consciousness is a complete red herring.
it's not. The atheist I'm addressing is Alex, who has a position on what
But you're talking
exists.
to just
That's
Jim
why it's a
now.
question.
You're talking to just Jim.
Okay, fine. So under your worldview, Jim, what exists? If it's not just consciousness, what exists?
Yeah, look. I mean, I don't know why you're asking me questions. I'm asking you to support what you mean by like conceivability or existence here, and why I'm necessarily committed to that. Because in
Okay,
my
so
opinion, I'm not committed to that.
So in order for me to explain that and express that in a way you'll understand me, I have to know if your worldview holds to these certain assumptions. Now you're claiming it doesn't, right? Now that's why I'm asking really meta questions to get at what your worldview's precepts are. Because your worldview's precepts, they define what your worldview is. But if your worldview's precepts are not based on anything that should be accepted, then they come under scrutiny. Why should we accept
But
that
like,
if your
you understand
worldview
that.
was consciousness?
But you understand that asking me questions
It's
about
internal
my
perspective.
worldview doesn't really support the notion that I necessarily must be committed to this, right? You should have some argument by which you're getting to the first premise, right? The conclusion of your first premise to demonstrate
I did.
why
I
I'm
gave you.
committed to that.
Yeah, I did. I gave you. I said that if you don't have a God within your worldview, then without a God, you don't have an external referent that would give you context to any meaning of anything at all. So you're committed to certain things as a consequence of that.
There is no external from the consciousness only view. It's a non-dualistic view. There's nothing external. That's the point. But I gotta go. Sorry. Thanks for having me up.
Later, Vince.
Take care. So you understand my point? That is actually the crux of the argument, is that without a God, you don't have reference. And because you don't have reference, you don't have context.
How is that not question begging then?
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
You're question begging a theistic view for knowledge on an atheistic view. You're saying, look, if you're defining that for you to know for something to exist or disambiguate, the only way that you should know that is by having God in your worldview. Well, that's going to be question begging on an atheistic worldview.
Okay, can you explain how that's question begging?
Yeah, you're saying that only God can give you this like ability to be able to disambiguate, right? If you're defining it that way, then obviously it's going to follow that an atheist is not going to have that, because an atheist doesn't have God in their worldview. That's like me saying, look, as a theist, like the only way that you could know that things exist is to hold on to like naturalism. And so therefore, as a theist, that you don't hold to only naturalism, you have no way of knowing things. Well, I mean, that's going to be question begging my view onto the theistic view.
Yeah, so let me clarify for you. My understanding about your worldview is that you don't have anything external that is non-subjective to inform you about anything that's real, true, or factual. And as a consequence of that, you can't just appeal to anything. You have to appeal to something that is outside of yourself, that provides information and gives you knowledge and understanding of things. It gives you context and that gives you meaning.
There's
So
a lot
within
to
your
unpack there. There's a lot to
yeah,
unpack.
I know, but I'm not done. Let me just finish. So in order to do that, there has to be something, some entity that can provide you with that, like an explanation that has the power and the ability to give that reference. So it would be something that's outside of yourself. As a theist, obviously, I'm going to appeal to God because God fits that description. God fits the description of something that's not time bound, that's not restricted by the subjective framework of a human being, and so forth. But the atheist can't appeal to anything that is outside of itself without being circular and recursive. So, like that's why I said, without being tautological, what does consciousness mean? That's why I asked the question. So the only way that you can get out of this is by making certain assumptions. You make assumptions about what is, what isn't, what's real, what's fake. And those presuppositions, are they justified? No, they're just presuppositions. And because they're just presuppositions, that means you're going to be locked into that subjective framework still.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, you're fire hosing a lot of points here. That's kind of hard to unpack, right? That's why I wanted to stop you. But you've gone through so many points that it's like I don't know where even to begin.
Okay, I would say probably easiest to just start with the reality of being a subjective being without having access to something that's external to yourself, that's revelatory, that's not within yourself only. That's something that's necessary for knowledge to be had. Do you agree?
So why are you saying that on an atheist's view, the only thing that they have is that there's subjective beings without access to something external to themselves?
Okay, so would you say that you're claiming that you do have access to external things?
Look, stop asking me questions. I'm trying to understand your argument. Why are you saying that?
Because I believe that that's the case. I believe it's the case.
But why? Like, look, beliefs aren't sufficient to justify the premise or the argumentation. Right?
Well, in order for you to claim that you have access outside of yourself to objective things, to ontological things, then you're going to have to be able to support that, right? I'm claiming the negative. I'm saying, well, you don't have access, right? Because on default, you don't have access.
So how is there? Okay, so you're just claiming it because on default we don't have access. So this is just like a stipulative premise that we're all subjective and therefore nobody has access to the external world.
Nobody who's an atheist, yeah.
I mean, well, that's still unjustified, right? You still haven't given support.
Are you claiming that an atheist cannot access to anything external, but a theist can?
It's like a weird imposed Cartesianism. It's like he thinks that we're stuck in our theaters.
Theism doesn't escape that.
Yeah, it does.
It's just not clear that that's true on any worldview.
Yeah, but let him justify that. Let him justify the claim that a theist has access to external reality. But go ahead.
Yeah, so we have access because we have two forms of external access. These two forms of external access, internal, non-inferential, and external, that is inferential. Those two are revealed. It's revealed from God. That's how we know things are. That's how we know that.
Let's stop right there. Let's stop right there. The internal, non-inferential, is that something that you're arriving to through your subjective lens?
No, it's non-inferential. It's before you're even born.
Wait, what does it mean to have non-inferential knowledge without subjectivity?
Yeah, so that's like when God inscribes on the soul, he inscribes certain knowledge upon the soul, upon the human being. And that human being comes out of the womb with understanding of certain things like pain, like I need to suckle, and knowing how to suckle without having any prior experience or inferential.
Obviously, infants have instincts. Yes, they have instincts. So now what?
Yeah, instincts and intuitions and things of that nature. Those are described by a knowledge giver that's pre-inferential.
Wait. I mean, there are some dispositions, right, that humans may have, right? But you only experience those things through your subjective lens, right? It could be that, there's something that maybe are programmed or something as you're
Ah,
right. There may be innate, but how do you
you hear
even
your,
how
do
do
you
you
hear
even
your appeal?
experience this? How
Do
do
you
you even
hear your
experience
appeal?
this? No, I'm trying to find out how you escape this, because you said you like the two tools that you use to escape the fact that you know that there is an external world are two tools that you arrive at subjectively. One being non-inferential knowledge,
Yes.
which you understand through experience, and the other is some type of external revelation. Revelation necessarily being something that you arrive at through your subjective experience. So again, how is it that you're escaping subjectivity through these two mechanisms?
Because you have something doesn't mean that you have to experience it in order to have it, right? I don't have to experience wanting to suckle in order to know how to suckle. Like I can suckle, the baby comes out and the baby knows exactly what to do, right? These aren't like
Is the
things
baby not experiencing suckling?
it's experiencing it when it does it at the instant
Okay,
that
so
it
the
does it.
fact that they're experiencing it, right? That they're experiencing that there is a mother to suckle on, right? That they're experiencing, some phenomenology when they feel pain. These are all experiences that are arrived at through your subjective lens.
Yeah, but the drive and the motivation to do those things comes from something. You would agree with that, right?
So what that it comes from something? You're not
Yeah.
escaping. You're not escaping the subjectivity, because I could give you a stalking horse objection right to this and say, look, on your view, you're claiming that it comes from God. On my view, I'm claiming that that's innate to evolutionary biology.
Yeah, but the problem is you would be dealing with a false, a fallacy. Your fallacy of
Fallacy.
a false deification. Oh my God. Oh, sorry, that was my mom who called. I'm gonna have to call her back in a minute. But you're appealing to something that doesn't have the motivating ability or capacity to actually do these things, right? Which is a false deification fallacy.
Why does it need that? I don't like, on my view, I don't need there to be intentionality for dispositions to exist in the world.
No, but you need to have something that can motivate in order for it to be a motivator. Otherwise, you're just appealing. I mean, I can literally just say the reason that babies know how to suckle is because the stars align. Like that could be
embedding this motivating language is already kind of baking in the notion that there has to be some consciousness behind it, right?
No. I'm saying that in order for it to be a justified explanation, that explanation needs to be able to have the proper productive capacity to do so. This is all abductions, right? In abductions, you have to have proper explanatory scope. If you don't have explanatory scope and you don't have explanatory power and you're appealing to, I mean, I could literally say the vacuum cleaner is the reason why the child knows how to suckle. I mean, that's not an explanation.
No. In order for it to be, in the loosest sense, an explanation, there has to be a relationship between the explanans and the explanandum, right? A vacuum cleaner has no relationship to a kid suckling. But in my view, saying, look, these instinctual habits that kids have are a product of evolutionary biology. That is some type of relation between the explanans and the explanandum.
Really? Evolutionary biology. What is evolutionary biology and how is it an explanandum? How does it have a relationship?
I mean, like now this is pivoting again even
It's
more.
really not.
Right?
It's really not.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. The point is, it's still coherent, right? Even if you
No,
believe
it's
like
not.
evolution is
It's not
false.
coherent.
Why not?
Because evolution is just a description of mutations through the process of reproduction. It's not like evolution is something that actually
you may not agree with it, but it is sufficient as an explanation in this case.
Huh?
Yeah, we're talking about instincts, right? So Jim is appealing to evolution and saying evolution explains our instincts, like the infant suckling, for example. And what is incoherent about that? There's nothing incoherent.
Because the definition of evolution is just a description of the process of mutations through reproduction. That does not tell you how a child has the knowledge to suckle. That does not tell you that.
But you're also equivocating on the word knowledge, right? An instinct is not technically knowledge. All we're talking about is a behavior, right, that was fit for survival, right? So the things that lead us to eat and reproduce are the things that get selected for under evolution. So the
Also,
And also
explanation
he's
is
saying,
the baby suckles, right? The baby suckles because that is beneficial for survival. The ones that didn't suckle died.
And do you think that
yeah, and also reflect. I think you misunderstand that a view could be false, but it could still be coherent, right? There's no like dichotomy there. Like it has to be true in order for it to be coherent.
sure, a view could be false and it could be coherent, but I think it's not coherent. So that's my claim.
but
It's not
you
coherent.
haven't established that. You haven't given some conflict. And the thing is, it's not just about the process. It's about it's about a history, right?
There is an
Evolution
easy way
doesn't
to
just
describe
contain.
it.
It's not about just a description of the process, but the historical happenings and how those happenings were guided by that process, right? Well, it's more not guided in,
Thank you.
but
Yeah.
that
Because the guided
it's
entails
imminent to the process.
right. So anything that is not random, then it entails that it must have some sort of a intelligence or understanding. Otherwise, it
No,
is
it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Sorry,
Because
Otherwise,
it,
it is just
because it can be
random.
I will not,
imminent to the process.
Guys, I
Right?
don't want him. I will not let him pivot from this point. I will not let him pivot. Reflect. What is incoherent about appealing to evolution in order to explain instincts? What's incoherent about it?
I just explained it because evolution is a description of mutations through the process of reproduction. That does not explain anything except here is how
Again,
these
again, a
things
view.
operate.
Listen, again, a view could be false but still coherent.
Yeah, and I'm saying it's incoherent because it doesn't have the productive capacity. It doesn't follow any abductive rules, right? It has to follow these abductive rules to be an
What do you mean
explanation.
abductive? What is an abductive rule? You just make shit up. What is an abductive rule?
Okay, since I just make stuff up, I'm just gonna pull it up for you so you can, see that I'm not making it up, and you just didn't know.
There is,
So there we go.
yeah. So what do you mean by abductive
Does
rule?
explain it.
Okay, so
So
abductive rules.
it sounds like when he says evolution, he's just talking about, right, like a genetic drift or something, right? But what does explain it is natural selection. It's an iterative process. Do you not understand what we're saying when we say that?
I just want to respond to him first. Here are the common abductive rules: inference to the best explanation, explanatory power, explanatory scope, explanatory coherence.
No, those are not rules.
These
Oh my
are-
God. Maybe
Oh,
you're
do you have a
thinking of
problem
like
with my terminology? Like, is that a big deal? You could have been charitable. Like, it didn't have to be that serious.
Are you just appealing to like theoretical principles or something?
Yeah, I mean, these are principles that we hold to when we do abductions. Abductions have to do with past inferences or past explanations that tell us how things occur.
Even if you look, even if you're trying to get through abductive reasoning, even on that front, this argument seems to fail, right? Because we could say that in our observation of organisms, evolving and developing habits, right, whereby natural selection eliminates the ones that have habits that are detrimental to survival and helps flourish those that do, right? We have sufficient data that leads us that the best explanation that some species or animals have habits that we call instinctual is because of evolutionary biology, right? Now that's the data. We have zero data showing that there exists some supernatural entity that bakes in these instincts into species. You'd have to demonstrate that. And when we juxtapose both of them, there's no data that supports any kind of abductive reasoning for your hypothesis.
Hold on a second. So you're saying that you have evidence that there are these biological markers, DNA, some sort of a marker on the most fundamental chromosomes of these biological creatures that instructs them and informs them how to do things?
That's not what I said. When did I say that?
Then you said, what you said is that under naturalism and biological evolution, that That is the explanation for how these
No,
instincts come.
that's not what I
more-
said. Like, I'll repeat what I said. I said,
Okay.
if we were to look at this phenomena of like instincts and what they are, and we're trying to arrive at it abductively, given some data set, well, we have sufficient data to make it give us the best explanation that natural selection, right, evolution by means of natural selection, better explains these instincts because we see that those entities or organisms that develop habits that are detrimental to their survival, right, like not suckling on their mother's teeth to survive, die, right, and those that do survive, right? So we have sufficient data to observe organisms developing these quote unquote instinctual habits for survival. What we don't see,
Right.
what we don't see,
And the
If
major
it is a
point,
random process, if it is a
and the
random
major
process,
point there, one
Christ.
second. The major point there is that the ones who die do not reproduce, and thereby do not regenerate their genetics, right? So these habits, right, that you're calling knowledge, these instincts that you're equivocating the word knowledge on, are behaviors that have been passed down,
where?
ancestrally.
But
Okay.
then passed down where? Like where do you
Because the
find
ones
them?
who didn't, you understand the ones who did not behave that way died and did not reproduce,
But
right?
that
You
wasn't-
understand that.
That's not my issue. My issue is where are they found? You're saying that it's because it's not random, right? So if it's passed down, then what is being passed down? DNA. DNA has it tells you about traits, but it doesn't tell you how to do things. So you're claiming evolution is the explanation for these behaviors as if behaviors get inscribed into the DNA. That's why I'm saying otherwise you're appealing to something that doesn't exist. So what are you appealing to? Where does this biological marker tell you how to do that? It's supposed to be a random process, right? If it's a random process, not guided, then it's being stored where? That information is being stored where? For behavior. It's not being stored
Right.
in DNA.
It's being
So therefore, evolutionary biology is actually not the best explanation. Has to be from something that can give knowledge. That's why the God concept is a much stronger concept.
wait,
than-
but in order for you to say that,
This is
like,
you
let's
changing
say,
your story. Number
Yeah.
one, notice you've moved from incoherent to not the best story. Those are two different things.
no,
Right.
I'm saying it's
You
incoherent.
guys
because
let him pivot from that.
I'll tell
I
you why
didn't
it's
want to
incoherent.
let him, but
I'll tell you why it's incoherent. It's incoherent because you're saying something can come from nothing. Some knowledge comes from no knowledge. Where's the coherence in that? That's not
who
coherent.
says something comes from nothing? No one said that.
But
He
look,
said-
I could even defend nothing from something, right? Insofar as you allow for objective chance, right? The nature of stability is such that if there's these random events, right? Eventually, what you're going to get is some kind of structure, right? Because some of those events are going to create things that are more stable, right? That are self-sustaining, right? And there's nothing incoherent about that because insofar as there would be random events, some of those random events are going to create things that by their nature are stable. And eventually you would get a system, even from nothing, right? You would build up structures that would become self-sustaining. You would get something like event loops, right? Events that give events that give events, and eventually you get a whole structure. There's no reason that given some kind of objective chance, you couldn't get a stable world.
See, the problem is that, again, this is just assumptions without actually being able to
You have
demonstrate.
assumptions.
Without being able to demonstrate how that behavior is stored from one particular animal or organism and then passed down. Behavior is something that's outside of DNA. You can change your behavior. You can't change your DNA. If I was,
I'm not even talking. I'm technically not even talking about animals here.
We're
I'm talking about
instincts.
absolute nothing and objective chance. That's all you need.
Yeah, but we're talking about instincts, right? We're still in the context of instincts.
Guys, I don't even know where we're going with all of this. Like, okay, let's say evolution is false. How does that get you to God?
I mean, easily. As I said, it's the inference to the best explanation. A knowledge giver gives knowledge and information. It motivates behaviors. It instantiates. It has all of the powers to do so. So it would make sense to appeal.
So just because you say so, then, so
No,
just because you said that.
because it's an inference to the best explanation. That's what I said.
Yeah, but what about what if I said an alien did that?
Yeah, and does an alien have the productive capacity to do that? And when this alien is something that you're appealing to, is it within the four-dimensional world or is it not? Is
Yeah,
it
yeah, it's within the four-dimensional world. Yeah.
so you're stuck with infinite regression? Then you're stuck with infinite regression. That's why God just works. It works. It makes sense. It's clear. It's like unavoidable.
None of this is still justifying your position.
I don't think that the God hypothesis, whatever, that's fine. But my specific issue is this notion that there aren't coherent alternatives. Like that's just it's intellectually dishonest.
It's not coherent if you're saying that something comes from nothing. That's not coherent. That's not
Based on
coherent.
what? Show me the P, not P.
Yeah, the P is something instantiates, nothing instantiated it. That's a contradiction. Something and nothing are contradictions.
That's not even a true contradiction.
It's a problem. It's a contradiction. You're saying something and nothing are existing at the same time. Nothing instantiated something. How does that make sense?
What are you counting as something? What is it to make? What is it to be something?
Yeah, to be something, it must be real and it must exist.
Okay, those are just literally empty words. You're just give me
Look
something
at-
more substantive there.
Look, at the deepest level and the most fundamental level, everything is recursive, right? We know by way of experience. Something is a thing that is real, that exists. And nothing is something that isn't real or doesn't exist, isn't present. And you're saying that something is instantiated by no thing. That's a contradiction. Something or nothing existing at the same time is a contradiction.
Do you know what?
Espousing that view, but like none of this does anything to kind of support the fact, because like this whole argument stemmed from you trying to support P1 of your argument, right? And it seemed as if though the justification for P1 being anything that's conceivable exists, and that an atheist is necessarily committed to that, is because they can't escape the disambiguation between there being something external to them and internal to them, because on their view, the only thing that they have is subjectivity, which is false, right? There's a lot of different epistemological approaches that, aren't just subjective. However, you still haven't demonstrated how those two tools or mechanisms that you're saying helps you, the theist, escape that isn't also subjective, right? You have what you're calling this, innate knowledge, right? Because what one could even argue whether instincts are knowledge, right? But you also have this other appeal to revelation, both of which you're arriving at through experience, which is going to be purely subjective. And so how is it that you're escaping this? You still haven't answered that.
That's definitely not my view.
That was a really good point by Jim. I mean, you should
But it
become
wasn't- it
I don't know,
wasn't
red herring king instead
just
of
wasn't the
reflect
case.
king, because you come with these red herrings that moves the conversation to something totally different. What
No,
we were
you just
talking
weren't
about is because your claim was that an atheist cannot justify external knowledge, but a theist can.
Yep.
And you haven't substantiated that.
Oh, I totally
so
did.
back to that.
I totally did. That's not my issue though, because the reality is appealing to something that has no ability and no qualia, no power to do anything, and appealing to that as the explanation for how things are the way they are is so silly. It's not coherent at all.
It could be quote unquote silly, right? You could be incredulous to it, but that does nothing to undermine the argument, right? It does nothing to bolster your argument.
But I gave you the contradiction. I gave you the contradiction, and that's why it's
there's only a contradiction insofar as an atheist is committed that in order for them to have knowledge, they need some kind of quote unquote intention or knowledge giver, right? And you haven't demonstrated that, but that's pivoting from the point. How are you escaping the subjective notion that both revelation and instincts are somehow escaped on your view as being subjective. You still haven't given an argument for that.
Yeah, two ways. So two responses. First, your claim that you do have access to this objective reality and knowledge is something that you can obtain without having a knowledge giver is something you would have to demonstrate. And
Have I been muted this whole time?
And because you
Yes.
and because you can't demonstrate that, which is impossible to, otherwise you would have been the first human being on Earth to have solved the problem of hard solipsism, which I'm pretty sure you're not claiming you have. So if you're committing or accepting that that's the case, and that means that you are you are a solipsist, and as a solipsist,
Yeah, but how do you solve it?
You're pivoting.
How do you solve it?
Yeah, you're
solve it
pivoting.
as theists.
Let's say I am a epistemically bankrupt, dirty atheist, right? And I'm looking to build my epistemology. And here you are, Reflect King, saying, "Look, I have the answers, man. In my view, I have no subjectivity because the mechanisms that I use are instinct and revelation."
I'm not saying that.
And I'm asking you, well, how is that not subjective?
No, I'm not saying that I don't have subjectivity. I'm saying I have access to objectivity.
How do you know? How do you know that? Because you're arriving at that through your subjective lens, which is a very critique you're laying on the atheist.
That's the assumption that you have. It's being arrived at, and that's a wrong assumption. It's a false assumption. It is not something that's arrived at. That's why I said in the beginning, it's non-inferential. And because it's non-inferential, it means I don't need to have the subjective frame and experience.
Not what you said in the beginning. No,
Jim,
that's
I
not
think-
what you said in the
It's not
beginning.
argument from the beginning.
That's
What
not
are
what
you
he said in the beginning. Look, wait.
That is
That's
absolutely
not what he
what
said
my
in the
argument
beginning. He said, hold on, wait. What you said was, right, that you have non-inferential, like a seeming, right, that God exists, right? And then you have external revelation that resonates with that internal
Revelation.
seeming.
I said there are two types of revelation. It's called ilham and wahi. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. I know my worldview very well. This worldview.
Well,
is-
also, wait, guys. Reflect King believes that rocks can think.
There, yeah, I knew he was going to say that. I knew he was going to
Yeah, he believes that rocks can think. Like, what?
This is what happens. It devolves into just,
I think that just Jim, you justified. If you want to like scream at him, I think that's justified at this point.
Hey, look, every single time we get to these points, atheists get stuck with their solipsism. And you know what?
I'm not a solipsist.
You're stuck.
I'm not a
Stop,
solipsist.
stop
Period.
dodging. Stop dodging, man.
Unless you can-
I'm waiting
unless
for
you can
your
solve that
answers.
problem.
Stop dodging.
Wait,
I'm waiting
Jordan.
for your
Jordan, you
answer.
actually don't have a choice. You can't just choose not to be a solipsist. You can't escape it.
Unless you can
Oh,
escape it and solve it, you cannot get out of this.
Wait, but
I-
Reflect,
here's
did you
the thing.
solve it?
Here's the thing, Reflect.
Yes, we have. Yeah.
Did you solve it?
No, look, you're treating revelation as a given, right? But here's the thing. For you to have revelation, right, especially if some like a concept like God, right, you're using a concept. But if you're employing a concept, the very nature of a concept is that a concept can be misapplied, right? You're still interpreting. So for you to even say what you're saying, for it to be able to enter the space of reasons, right, to be part of, for it to be discursive, means that there is this interpretive element.
No, that doesn't.
Yes, it
follow.
does. Then how does it move from a non-discursive point, right? Instinct, this whatever experience is giving you this revelation, to discourse. What turns it into something discursive, something that you can say?
I'm not exactly sure what you're asking me now. I thought
Okay.
I thought I understood initially, and now I'm not sure what you're asking me.
Yeah, so look, you are using concepts to describe your view, are you not?
Yeah, of course.
Right. So to be able to do that, you have to be able to take what is happening, right, or whatever you think, instinct and this revelatory experience, right, and turn it into something that you can say, right? But
So in order for it to be real, I have to describe it.
But there's one of two. You're going to run into a dilemma here, right? Because either built into the experience is the discursive structure that allows you to give a description that moves that revelatory experience into the space of reasons, into the discursive interaction, right? Or where are you getting the concepts from?
Yeah, because you believe, and based on what you're describing right now, you're assuming that in order to get to that information or that knowledge, you have to go through discourse. But we don't believe that. We believe that there are two different forms.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you have to go through discourse. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying where is the structure of what you're saying coming from?
Where is the structure of what I'm saying coming from?
Where's the discursive structure coming from?
The information I'm sharing with you guys, where is that coming from?
No. Where is the structure coming from? How do you go from the revelatory experience to the ability to talk about that experience? What is structuring the experience such that it is possible for that experience to enter discourse?
Okay, I'm going to ask a clarifying question because I'm really not following what you're asking, but I'm going to ask a clarifying question. If it were the case, assume that it is the case that God is real and he's revealing in a non-inferential way and in an inferential way, would you accept that that would make sense as to instincts, intuitions, knowledge, the critical period for a child and language and so on and so forth? Would you agree that that would make sense? That would be something that's coherent?
It's a total burden shift, bro.
Because I don't understand what he's asking. Do you? You can re-ask his question. I really don't understand. Because it sounds like
now that's a burden shift to ask the question.
Yeah, of course it is. The thing is,
No, but wait, we are
question,
still waiting for a justification that you, as a theist, have access to external revelation, but an atheist do not, or an external reality, let's say, but an atheist do not.
Yeah, look, I mean, justification, you're waiting. You may wait your whole life because it's not up to me to convince you. It's just up to me to go out and tell you and inform you. And that's the truth. Now, I can give you all the reasons why, but that's not what really motivates people. Let's be honest.
Yeah, give me the reasons. I want you to give me the reasons.
I gave the reason. I gave all the reasons all throughout this conversation. Yeah, I did. So, look, it's been a good conversation.
No, but wait.
Yeah.
What's the justification that you have access to external revelation? What's the justification? I'm failing to understand that.
Like these two mechanisms, like what I've been pressing you over the past 20, 30 minutes here for you to show how these two mechanisms that you say you have, which helps you escape this subjective notion such that you are able to disambiguate, how these things are not subjective. You haven't demonstrated that. You haven't demonstrated it yet.
Yeah, because it's with me before I experienced.
Well, that's one mechanism. That's one mechanism, right?
Exactly.
That's the internal one. But you said you had two. You had that in conjunction with this external revelation, right? That gives you access to knowing the external world, right?
Yes.
Again, revelation is something that you arrive at, like what Jordan was trying to get at, right? Through some subjective lens, right? Because that's how you take this, if you want to grant it, right? This knowledge that's non-discursive, i.e. inferential, to inferential type of justification or knowledge, be it discursive, right? You're arriving at that through your subjective lens, right? How does this escape the critique that you're levying on the atheist?
Yeah, because that's why so I'll explain again. The two forms, yes, one of them is inferential, obviously. That's why I claimed it from the beginning. One of them is inferential. That inferential matches with the non-inferential. When it matches with the non-inferential, and it has certain transcendent markers like claiming to be from an external source like God, claiming to have revelatory power, claiming things about the future. It has content that would align with what a God would be. It has
just like you, bro, a bunch of claims.
Yeah, but that's why I said you've got the two forms. That's what makes it so strong. No, that's what makes it so strong, is the fact that you have two different forms.
And are you arriving at the notion that these two forms coincide or they match? Are you arriving at that through your subjective lens?
Yeah, for additional information, yes.
Okay, so it doesn't escape subjectivity then.
No, there are fundamental things that are non-inferential, like God exists, like there's an external world, like I don't have to be so skeptical about my senses.
Like, look, I don't think, or you'd have to at least give reasons why we ought to believe that it's instinctual to us, the notion that God exists, or how God exists is on the same level of, me feeling pain, non-inferentially.
I guarantee, and I may be wrong on this, but how many of you on the panel were theists at one point in your life?
Me.
Okay.
Maybe we should be more specific, though. Maybe this will clear up the confusion. Reflect. Do you have a non-question begging argument?
You always ask me this question.
I already posed this question a while back.
Well, because I hear you giving, I'm not saying you don't have an argument, but you're saying there are these fundamental truths like God exists. Well, yeah. That's just not going to be successful.
Why not?
Yeah, here's the argument. That's not going to be successful. See, would you accept that argument?
Obviously, you'd have to really understand my worldview to know the reasons why, but ultimately, these are fundamental things that we have, and I just asked a question that demonstrates the validity of it. That you all believed in God, you used to believe in it, you accepted it, and then you left it.
Look, but the fact that we may have been theists doesn't really support the fact that we instinctually are born knowing that God exists, right? There could be multiple explanations for that. It could be that we're brought up in a society that's theist, and those are traditions that are given to us, or it's like a cultural thing, right? Like there are a lot of other reasons that don't really support the notion that you're claiming here. You're claiming that you're making a strong claim. You're saying that in the same sense that we have these instinctual phenomenology like pain or going after food when we're babies or something. In that same sense, we also know that God exists, and you'd have to support that.
But even stronger than that, us all being theists at one point and then deconverting could be data points in the inductive case that you are also mistaken about your God belief.
It could be, but is it more likely the explanation? Come on, look, these are subjective points, and for you as the atheist, these are points that
let's say we have to
actually.
Let us make this very clear. We have two hypotheses. Okay, one, your hypothesis that God gave us this innate knowledge of Himself. Okay, He put it in our nature, and the other explanation being that. For whatever reason, evolutionarily, those tribes that believed in something supernatural, they were more cohesive, they were more integrated, so they competed the other tribes that did not believe in a god or something. So what about what's the asymmetry between those two hypotheses? Why is the God hypothesis more likely than the naturalistic one?
Because it's more prevalent. In fact, actually, every single nation and society had a concept of some divine being. It may not have been one monotheistic being.
Yeah. I just gave you a naturalistic explanation of that, because those tribes that did believe in a god, they were held more closely together. They had this common cause, common belief that, for example, when they died, they would join their ancestors. They had some supernatural beliefs, and that made them work more together and become stronger.
So do you think that that's a better explanation, that is just a bunch of random chance tribes and civilizations around the world, random, and they almost all
but it's not random.
Come to the conclusion that God exists? Come on.
No, but it was not random. It was because it was more they survived better because they were having more their bonds were stronger than the other tribes that did not believe in a god or something supernatural.
So believing in God helps your society.
Yeah, let's say that's a
again,
naturalistic
we could look at
explanation.
we could look at anthropologically how even like proto religions or even primitive religions were not monotheistic, right? They were polytheistic, right? So it's just the notion that something higher exists,
Exactly.
many gods, right?
That's exactly it, Jim.
Wait. I'm supporting Cosmic's view here, right? I'm saying that even in like polytheistic societies that thrived, and later on, as we understand, as societies got more sophisticated, notions of deism changed. Like what helped those societies survive is just this mechanism that was pragmatic, that doesn't speak of whether that is a reflection of reality. It's just a reflection of how useful a tool it was for the society.
See, Jim, but you don't understand that your statement right there is actually a very strong proof for our argument, which is that there is that internal innate notion of something outside of yourself that is divine, that is higher than you, that it needs to be appealed to. Now, people get it wrong.
I never said innate, though. I never said innate in my argument. I said that these are tools that even primitive societies use in order to flourish. But none of that all could have been arrived non-innately. That all could have been arrived inferentially when they're looking at, look, there's a group of people who are being more cohesive and they're survived because they're held together by something, right? Belief in, like the tree god, right? As opposed to this other group of people who aren't, right? And they starve to death. And so they're arriving at that non-inferentially. So that doesn't support the case that, even primitive people knew this innately.
No, but look, what I'm saying is that these internal, non-inferential, fundamental beliefs that we have as human beings, I'm just explaining.
I'm sorry.
These non-inferential beliefs that we have, or understandings that we have, they are very strong, and they present themselves. They express themselves in different tribes throughout the millennia, and they express themselves as divine.
What is it that you're not understanding?
Listen.
I have a very strong desire to drink Fabuloso, but that doesn't mean it tastes good.
Let me finish the point at least. Let me finish the point. That they are.
You're just repeating the same point.
Hold on. I'm not. I'm saying that they are indicating to something, and if this is consistent, and you see it in 100% of the tribes that have been in the past that you see, then that should tell you something. That wait, there's got to be something here because this is a pattern, and we're pattern recognizing.
Yeah. What it could tell me is that was really important for like tribal societies and hunter-gatherers, that they had this belief that, for example, made them sacrifice more for the tribe, because they believed that if they did so, the gods would give them something in the afterlife or something like that. So so those tribes that did not have those beliefs were outcompeted by the ones that did believe in those superstitions or supernatural beliefs. Why isn't that like a coherent explanation?
Yeah, which tribes? Which one? Can you point to one that didn't have a supernatural understanding of the world?
No, because they died out, right? That's the evolutionary answer.
That's like special pleading.
They were outcompeted. They were outcompeted by the theistic tribes.
That's just a claim. You're not supporting that. That's not.
Yeah, but you're also making a claim. Oh my God!
Different than the claim that we have this innately, right?
Because every tribe has the concept of a god and a divine.
On a meta point, though, I do think that reflect. Obviously, your view is going to sound better if you just strawman our view, right?
How much strawmanning your view? How?
Well, I don't know how, but at every turn you are doing it.
Zach, why? Why do you do it, Zach? Why? I don't know.
I'm just saying. You go like, we all have these innate, fundamental, flower language words for God, or we have this random chance of random atoms randomly from nothing. Yeah, one of those sounds cooler. Yeah. Okay,
deep down
no one is saying it's random. No one is saying it's random. I gave a naturalistic explanation of why they outcompeted the other tribes.
Yeah, but this is your explanation without any evidence. What tribe?
Yeah, and what's your evidence? What's your evidence?
Look, it's the onus is upon you. You're the claimant.
Wait, reflect. Wait. I just said that you were strawmanning, and you go, how? As if to say you are not. and then Cosmic lays out the straw man, and then you say, yeah, but that's your view, though.
No, I'm asking him to demonstrate. Hey, look, it's his claim. He's
I'll
claiming that
demonstrate it. I'll demonstrate it this way. I'll demonstrate it this way. Those tribes that use this and arrive to it non-inferentially as some type of pragmatic tool survived, and those that didn't died out. And the proof is, we don't see any of those tribes anymore, right? Can you point to some society that didn't have a god?
Yeah, but that's exactly what
No,
I'm
can
asking
you point
you
to a
to do.
society that didn't have a god?
Yeah, I'm asking you to do that. It's your claim.
Well, there isn't any. That proves my point.
Yeah, it's called a
Onus-
no-seum inference. If those
Onus-
tribes exist,
it's
we would
upon the
expect to
claimant.
see them. We don't see them, therefore we're justified in making the claim.
The onus is upon the claimant, guys.
There you go. So, like, I gave you the argument. See, it worked.
Oh,
Why are we even granting the non-inferential, number one?
I don't know why, but I wasn't going to touch
you know
on that.
what? It resonates with your soul. That's why. And one day you're gonna find
Reflect,
out.
I think deep down I'm a theist, but I'm just
I
suppressing
do.
it.
I do believe that deep down inside. I honestly think that you're a theist. And
But
I
like
think
me more than other people.
you more than other people. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think you probably. I'm trying to figure out who's more, like you or Jim. I don't think Jim is like on level 10. He's probably like level 7.
I think
But
Jim's
then,
set in
like-
his ways.
Like Monkey Boy is probably between the two of you guys. I think he's like in the middle.
Oh
He's-
yeah, I mean Monkey Boy was a.
You
an
should
apologist
do
before.
a scale. You should do like the ranking charts, the S tier.
Yeah,
You know,
the
the
closest
theists
to
that are
becoming
closest to being
theists.
theists.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna put it out soon. My list of closet theists.
Yeah, closeted. Yeah,
But
And then
reflect,
when you guys
even if
come out
we
of the
granted
closet-
you, even if we granted you reflect that, atheists cannot like explain why we have this innate belief in God. Let's say that's the case. Okay, we grant you. It does nothing to your second claim that the theists have access to some external source, but the atheists do not. I mean, how do you know that it is an external source? You haven't substantiated that particular point.
Yeah. So if God exists, and it is true that God exists, God is not.
No,
internal.
we're not granting God exists. No, listen. No one is granting God exists. What we could grant, actually, I'm not an atheist, but what an atheist could grant is that, we have this innate, like, belief in God. So we are born, like, theistic. We are like homo deus, like some people express it. Homo deus just means that we have this innate belief in God as human beings. Okay, let's say that's the case. But now, the second claim that you're making is that we as humans have access, or you at least, have as a theist, have access to an external source of knowledge, but the atheists do not. Like, how do you know that it's external when you can only know it internally through your subjectivity?
So then, by that very standard, if you're saying that knowing something internally means that it needs some sort of like further justification, is that what your claim is? I'm trying to understand.
No, I'm just asking, how do you know that it's external? That's my
You said if
question.
it's only-
How do
if
you know
it's
it's
only
external?
Yeah, you said if it's only subjective and internal, then how do you know that it is
No,
external?
your claim is you have access to an external source.
Yep.
And I'm asking, how do you know it's external?
Yeah, but that's why I said so. It's a subjective thing. That's why it's internal.
But
Otherwise it
why
wouldn't
do you
be
then say that it's external? Didn't he say that, guys? Didn't he say that he has access to this external source or knowledge?
Yeah, the information comes from an external source, but it's known.
Okay,
to
how do you
me.
know that?
It's
Stop
known
there,
to
stop there.
It's known
Stop
to
there.
me
How do you know that the information comes from an external source?
because it claims to be from an external source. That's why I said it's known to me. Subjectively, it's known to me, but that doesn't preclude it from being true. Like it can be something could be subjective, only known. to
Wait,
you
wait.
because you only
What do you mean? What do you mean when you say it claims to be external?
Yeah, I mean that it is claiming to be God's message. It's claiming to be real. It's claiming to be.
Yeah, but don't you? Yeah, but don't you know that internally? Like it's not like you can step out of yourself and talk with this entity.
Well, first of all, that's just a claim, and some people do have that experience. But yes, it's known internally. God reveals to us internally. We have those notions, instincts, feelings, intuitions, that tell us this is from a real source. Like, these are real experiences and real
Yeah, but
understanding.
remember our conversation earlier. So a schizophrenic person would say the same thing, that these voices claim to be external to myself. They don't claim to be in my own head. So what's the asymmetry here between like schizophrenia and your claim, basically?
Yeah, they would only have one of the two. They would have that internal understanding or belief, or that whatever message, quote unquote, is being, quote unquote, revealed to them internally. If they were to claim this, right, then that would be internal. But do they have an external source that corroborates with that? No, they don't. No, they don't. Now,
Yeah, they do claim that. No,
Yes, I do. Yes, I
I'm
do.
saying, yeah, exactly. They do. They're claiming that it's an
The
external.
schizophrenic's
Like
Bible.
the voices that they're hearing. Wait. The voices that they're hearing are claiming that they are external to the subject.
Yeah, but that's a subjective internal experience.
Just like yours.
Yeah, and I don't argue with that, because
But
that's exactly
I'm
what it is.
But here, this is exactly what I would reject. I'm going to reject this strong subjective objective dichotomy that you're putting forward, right? I'm going to reject this kind of implicit Cartesianism, right? So there's no reason, for example, that I couldn't just say that, look, what I'm doing is I am of reality. I am communing with reality. There is no barrier between me and the world.
I'm not really sure how that, relates to the
Why?
example that I gave, but
There's
me
no
as
such
a,
thing as subjective. I'm just objectively experiencing the world directly. Direct realism is true.
Yeah, I am that the world itself is already inferentially articulated, right? It's that as Peirce says, the universe is profuse with signs. I'm just reading the signs off the world.
yeah, and that's the only reason you're able to do that from an explanatory perspective is because there's a God. That's the only way. It's
No,
not the only
why?
way. It just
Why?
happens to be that you reject, in a very obtuse or a very overt way, you're rejecting that God. But in reality,
Why
that God
think
is,
that why
that God
think
is
that
still
God is
real.
the only explanation of that?
God is the only explanation, of course.
Why?
Because
You're just repeating a claim.
Because what other source, what other explanation has the same explanatory power, scope,
coherence, ability, inference to the best explanation. What other
You do
thing has
understand.
that?
You
reality
do
itself
understand you're
is-
making. Hold on. You do understand you're making an impossibility claim, and then following that up with saying that God is the inference to the best explanation. And you do understand that these are two different things. So an impossibility claim means that you have to give a contradiction on the other person's view for why they can't accomplish that.
I did. I gave
Right?
that.
But an inference to the best explanation is a selection between competing hypotheses.
Yeah, I
Right.
also showed how and demonstrated how it was contradictory. Something coming from nothing, nothing and something existing at the same time.
But-
I gave that explanation.
But one, it doesn't have.
I
There
do have
doesn't
to go.
have to be. Like, nobody has to rely on that. Like, I think that's actually a viable alternative. We don't have to go into why, but again, those are distinct things, right? So it could just be that reality has always been this way. That there's just this the very structure of reality itself. And how do I know that? Well, because I'm part of reality.
Yeah, but I mean,
I
that-
have a kind of immediate access to the structure of reality through my own phenomenology.
I mean that doesn't really explain things because it still runs into all these, infinite regression problems and issues. But I do have to go.
Well,
I
no-
think here's the final thing. Honestly, I think you guys are getting closer to theism every day. You're getting closer.
Well,
Look, understand the worldview. I
Problem
guarantee you
reduction.
guys will appreciate it at least.
Wait,
if
this
nothing.
is the final thing.
Yeah.
Oh, thank
I got
God.
some- I got
I
some
am
things.
getting closer to theism
Guarantee
then.
you.
I know you are.
I guarantee you I got further away from theism during this conversation. I
Just out of
promise.
spite.
Look, at the end of the day, we have the access, and you guys are still subjectively stuck. with
No,
perseverance
that's
about
that's begging the question, and you know it, sir.
it. Hey, we'll talk another time. Thanks.
I'm
a lot,
subjectively stuck, step bro.
guys. Take care, you guys. Bye.
That was good. That was good.
Oh my gosh.